Welcome to the April the 4th, 1989 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie as we bring you our history tape number 91, and we have a very special family that has been very important in the history of Grand Prairie, Texas, and are still making history notes as they live in our wonderful city. We're very glad to welcome Mr. and Mrs. Roy Reed. We want to welcome you all to the show, Reeds.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And we also have with us their daughter, Shirley Reed Wilkins. And Shirley, you're wonderful to bring your parents here today and to come and help us make a history blast in the name of the Reeds today.
Enjoying it.
Wonderful. First of all, let's begin by talking to Roy Reed, a very famous merchant in Grand Prairie in the past, retired now, but ready to give us wonderful history notes about his family. And Mr. Reed, if you would look right out into this camera and talk to the people in video land and give us the name of your parents, your mother and your father. And your father's name was?
Joe Rufus Reed.
Joe Rufus Reed. And where was your father born?
Shelbyville, Tennessee.
Oh, that is wonderful. All right, now your mother and her full name, including her maiden name. Cynthia Ellen
Reed.
Okay. And before she married, I believe she was a Welsh, wasn't she?
That's correct.
All right. Well, did she come from Shelbyville, Tennessee?
No.
Where was she born?
She was born in North Carolina.
In North Carolina. Well, it's wonderful. And your parents, did they come to Texas together or did they meet here in Texas?
They met here in Texas.
They met here in Texas.
That's right.
All right. If they met here in Texas, can you tell me approximately where you all lived and where did you live when you were born, young man?
I was born out in the Watson community, northwest of Grand Prairie.
All right.
On the creek there. They used to call it Johnson Creek, but it's known now as Rock Creek.
Rock Creek?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's close to where they have the famous barbecue. And
Rock Creek barbecue.
Barbecue up the creek about a half a mile where I was born and raised, across the creek there.
All right.
And
what did your dad do for a living?
He was a farmer.
He was a farmer?
Yes.
And he farmed, and did your mother help him on the farm?
Sure did.
How
Yes,
many brothers and sisters did you have?
None.
No brothers and sisters?
No.
You were an only child?
Only child.
All right. When your dad was a farmer and you were going to school here in Grand Prairie, Texas, did you help on the farm? What'd you do?
Yeah, I helped. You bet you. You bet you. I sure did. We had a little dairy and I worked on the farm all the time, and every day I have to load the milk in the hack and take it to meet the truck and get ice. And yeah, I worked like a dog on the farm. That's the reason I quit farming. That's the reason I quit farming. It's too much work.
That's it. All right. Did you all have, you said you had cows and a dairy. Did you also have chickens?
Oh, yes. Dad had around 600.
Wow.
He's crazy about chickens. And that's one of his money crops. And of course, in farming, the rest of the stuff he raised on the farm, he didn't make much money off, except cotton. That was his cash crop. The other, corn and this and that, was fed back to the stock.
Did you ever go with him to the cotton gin?
We used to have three. I went many a time. They had 3 cotton gins here in Grand Prairie at one time.
All right. 3.
And we always went to Old Red. It was right there in the edge of town. And I'll never forget going there. Mr. Kirby, he was fired with coal. And we'd get there early in the morning, and I'll never forget, he had on good clothes. He was a fireman and worked on steam, wore an old cap halfway sideways on his head, and had a pair of old overalls over his good clothes. And he had a bunch of wrenches. I still don't know as big as it was in his hip pocket. He'd go over there and start that thing. Sometimes when he turned the steam on, dead center, and you have to get a crowbar and put in that big wheel.
Oh, wow.
And he used some cuss words when he was doing that.
You bet.
Yeah.
That went with the territory, didn't it? All right. Now, you worked on the farm, you went to the gin to take the cotton. Tell me about going to school. Did you go to school in Grand Prairie? Did you go out?
I went to Watson Community
Good.
up till I was about 8 or 9 years old, wasn't it, Shirley? Simpler. And then I went to Grand Prairie School, and then I went 1 year up at Arlington in TAC, they called it then. THE.
Yes.
But they changed it now, North Texas Agriculture College.
All
And
right.
I went 1 year and took a business administration course, and when I got out, depression had hit. I was in 29 or 30, something similar to that, and you couldn't get a job nowhere.
All right.
Anything, I mean. And what you could is $1, $1.25 a day. And I was kind of lucky. Knew Jess Small here at run the A&P, and Mr. Small got me on working there. And I worked in the butcher shop a year before I was able to cut meat, and then went from there. But I worked A&P there for several years, and then went up to Arlington during the horse racing time and worked A&P. And then I got laid off there after the horse races, and I come back to Grand Prairie and opened my own store right on the corner down there where it,
On Center and Main Street.
Right across the street from Jack in the Box there.
yeah, right across the street from Jack in the Box.
Jack in the Box.
Yeah,
All
right.
right.
A&P is where Jack in the Box, that's where A&P was.
All right.
And so I was in
You were
business.
on the southwest corner of Main and Center Street then.
Yeah.
All right.
And it used to be a bank in there, and they moved over on the corner. The vault is still there. A fellow named Chapman had that place, and he kind of got in hard shape, and I had a little money saved, and so I was very lucky at having that money saved. I had it in a bond up at Arlington. When I was working up at Arlington A&P, I had it in a Liberty bond. All right. I found out at the post office you could invest money in the post office in them days. So they was giving $0.01 1/2. And whereas in the bond I wasn't getting hardly anything, so I decided, that was during the horse racing time, that I'd go over to the bank. I had it in a thing there, and so bank box, and to get it. And Tom Sprunks was the president of the bank, and Dr. Harvey's boy up at Arlington, he was a teller. But unknowingly, the good Lord was with me. I went in there and I told him I wanted to get a key to go to my bank vault. And Tom said, "Roy, what you want to go to your bank vault for?" I said, "Well, I got a bond in there, $1,000 bond, and I want to cash it in and take it over and put it in the post office." He said, "Oh, they ain't no use going back there." I said, "Francis," that's a boy working teller, said, "just give Mr. Reed $1,000. I said, "Okay." That's all right. I didn't think of nothing. That's all I wanted. And when I walked across the street, I was scared to death. I thought sure I was going to be robbed or knocked in the head. Boy, I run like I run over a car getting over there. Next day, they found him dead out south town, Tom Sprunks. He'd gone in all those boxes, and Thompson's and all my friends lost a lot of money. And we didn't have numbers in those days as bond. And they lost everything. He killed himself. Lost it in gambling up at horse racing.
Oh dear,
And
that was so
so the
bad.
good Lord is with me. One day there,
You got your $1,000.
I got my $1,000,
All right.
and I saved a little.
I want to ask you, you mentioned something at pre-interview, the doctor's name that delivered you.
Dr. Payne.
Dr. Payne.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. He was very famous in our history, and do you think a lot of times Dr. Payne took chickens and eggs and butter
Yeah.
and everything? What did it cost your parents to deliver?
$5, and on top of that, it's funny, that scarf he wore around his neck, what starts bring babies in,
Yes.
he left it.
He left it when he left you. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so that, Dr. Payne was a very nice feller. I knew him for years, and I knew his boy awful well.
Okay.
Of course, there's others in his family, but his boy, after I got halfway grown, I knew him, Kelly Payne. Yeah, he was some character.
All right, now we're going to let you rest just a minute, and we're going to get to Maggie. We haven't even talked with Maggie, and we got to get some good stuff on Maggie. Maggie, tell us your parents' names, would you?
Well, my father's name was Lonnie Houston Sutton,
All right.
and my mother's maiden name was Bertha Alice Bell.
And she married Mr. Sutton,
Yeah.
of course. Did they marry here in the Grand Prairie area?
They married in Irving,
In Irving. Where were you born?
and I was born in Irving.
Okay, all right. Did you go to the schools in Irving?
Yes,
Went to the Irving
and
school?
my mother and father had 12 children.
How wonderful. Which one of the 12 are you?
They had, well, I'm about middle ways.
About middle
They had
ways.
9 girls and 3 boys.
All right. Are there still
Well,
living children?
I have sister. Well, I really have 2 sisters, but one of them's in a nursing home.
All
Has
right.
been for 15 years.
All right.
And I have a sister that lives at Granbury, and I have a brother that lives in Ennis.
Would you like to name them?
I had a brother in Irving.
All
Well,
right.
Oscar Sutton lives in Irving,
All right.
and Tommy Sutton lives in Ennis,
All right.
and Billy Ramsey lives in Granbury.
In Granbury.
She lives on our place there. We bought a place. And she
We let
lives.
her live down there for nothing.
All
We
right.
got a place down there.
All right. Now, when you went to school in Irving, how did you meet Mr. Roy
Well,
Reed?
I met him at a party in Irving.
Met him at a party in
A
Irving.
friend of mine had some kinfolks lived
All right.
over here,
All right. Who were your kinfolks' friends?
and she, where I met him, her name was Lila Everett at that time,
All right.
and she invited a
Well,
bunch
she had some friends over here.
of friends, and she invited a bunch from over here
All
to
right.
the party, and I met him there.
All right. Met him at a party.
Yeah.
All right. Was it love at first sight, or did y'all court for a long time?
Well, we went together about 3 years.
About 3 years. And then you proposed, and she said yes, and you said, I'm going to bring you back to Grand Prairie, or are you going to take her out to Watson, or where are you
No,
going to
Grand
live?
Prairie, Grand Prairie.
You're bringing her back to Grand
Yeah, I
Prairie.
work in A&P, yeah.
You was working at the A&P store?
Yeah, Grand-
And where did you all move? Your first little home in Grand Prairie, Texas was where?
It was, well, the first home we,
We rented first.
All right,
we
where did you
rented.
rent? We won't know where you moved to in
Well,
Grand Prairie.
the house is gone now.
All right.
It was up there by, across from Miss Hancock's there on that property, you know, where.
Near the school?
Near the school there.
All right.
Across from school.
Okay. And you
And we
lived,
lived in about 3 houses down that street, 3 apartments,
All
before we bought our place.
All
And then, of course, we just bought the lots there. And my dad built that house. He was
We
a
paid
contractor
$150 for that lot.
for that lot on the
On
corner.
the corner.
all right, now tell me the lot that you bought on the corner is now at the corner of Northeast 2nd and
And Northwest
Northwest.
Second,
Northwest 2nd and
Church.
Church?
Church Street.
What's located there now? The lot?
Nothing, it's just
No,
little,
nothing,
they
They
come
took
in
the
and
road.
cut the road in till there's nothing there except just a little
The
bit.
gas
strip.
company was next to us, but we was on the other side.
You were where the road
And just
is.
a little left there, and they come in, and
They should have widened the road on the other side.
but they
didn't.
widened it, and we had to sell. In other words, we didn't want to sell.
They condemned it.
They condemned it, and we had a lawsuit, and I won.
But my dad built
Yeah.
that place, and it had solid walls behind all the sheetrock ceiling, walls and all. It was really built well.
I understand you all had the first brick house that was built within a 25-year period
That's
in
correct.
Grand Prairie, Texas.
First house, new house built in 25 years. 2 or 3 told me that. Mr. Harry Turner turned out to be mayor, told me, and Mr. Page, and several told me that was the first new house that had been built in 25
At that
years.
time, there was a big 2-story house there where Mr. Page built his home.
All right, now, Maggie, you're into Grand Prairie. You're married to this young man that's working at the A&P store. Do you work out of the home, or did you stay home and tell us?
Well, no, I worked in Dallas in a sewing factory a long
All right,
time, and then
okay.
I was a
Rode in
beauty.
Urban.
I was a beauty operator.
All right, and where was
And
your
then-
beauty shop?
Well, I just worked for someone else.
All right,
I worked in Dallas for my aunt. She had a shop over there.
All
And
right.
then I worked the last few years. I was a sample maker there on Ninth Street at that
Erlanger's?
Erlanger's.
Wonderful.
I worked
All
in the
right.
designing department.
Now, in this interim, Shirley has come along.
Yeah.
What year, we're going to talk about what year Shirley's born, or is she going to let us tell that part?
Well,
Town.
we was married in 1930.
All right,
Shirley was born in 36.
1936.
Mm-hmm.
And you lived in Grand Prairie, and I'm sure that Shirley went to the schools here. Did you work with Mr. Reed in the store?
Yes.
You worked in the store, okay. We're going to get back to you two in just a minute, let you all tell us about old-time Grand Prairie, but let's get a little bit about Shirley, your wonderful daughter. Shirley, look out into your camera and tell us about you and your children and anything you want to say and about going to Grand Prairie to schools.
Oh, gosh, I can remember starting in the first grade. I guess that was 1942, and it was up there on College Street. I guess that was the only school
That
in
was the
town
last-
then. It was the
Uh-huh.
old red brick high
Old
school,
brick.
and they also had the first grade there.
All right.
And
Remember
then-
your teacher?
Yeah, Miss Parker was my first grade
Miss Parker
teacher.
was your first grade
And I
teacher.
still have my old first grade picture, and it's me and Martha Paxton and Sylvia Avery and Anita Berry and Max Bodine and Ralph Sargent and Gene Shipman and a lot of the kids I went all the way through school with.
All right.
And then I went to Austin School.
Okay.
Grand Prairie started building.
Started building more schools.
All right.
And then I went back to high school in the old red brick high school. Then they built the junior high,
Lee Middle School.
Lee Middle School. We
All
went
right.
out there in the 7th grade. We were the first class to go there.
All right.
And then we went to the new high school and graduated in 54. And then I married in 55, Bill
All right.
Wilkins.
All right.
And I now have 3 children. My oldest is Nikki, daughter Nikki.
Where is
And,
she?
She is a doctor, and she lives in Arlington.
All right.
She works at the Grapevine Medical Hospital.
All right. And your second child?
And my second child is Wayne Wilkins, and he is a fireman in Arlington.
All right.
He's married, has a little boy, 7 years old, named Reed.
All right.
And then my youngest daughter is Lisa Wilkins, and she is now living in Kansas City. She has her job, she was transferred up there.
Wonderful.
And I miss her a lot. I wish she'd move back to Grand Prairie.
And do you work out of the home, Shirley?
Right now, I work part-time at Six Flags Mall at a little shop called Bear Hugs that sells teddy bears.
Oh, that is
It's a real-
wonderful.
Real nice place to work.
And you have lived a lifetime in Grand Prairie, Texas?
Yes,
Wonderful.
I sure have. Wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Okay, and what does Mr. Wilkins do?
He is a sales manager at an equipment company that sells equipment to oil companies.
Okay.
They put in for oil companies in Dallas.
That is great. We're going to let you rest for a few minutes. Now we got to get back to Roy. Roy's got all the good stuff and some pictures and things here to show us. Now that we have all of the genealogy out of the way, Roy, what are some of these pictures that you all have brought along that you would like to show and
Well,
tell? Or what is this picture?
That's an old picture of our grocery store.
All right, why don't you hold that up just about right like this, one of you, or that's it. And maybe our camera can get in on that, because we would really like to have a shot of that in our history memorabilia. And that's inside your store?
Yeah.
The one that was located on the southwest corner of Main and Center Street,
Yeah.
where Dr. Sawicki's building is
Yes,
located
yeah,
now.
yeah.
That's it. Okay, now that's a good picture that we had to show and tell. Now this is something else. This looks very exciting.
Help Yourself Grocery.
Now where
I
was
worked up-
this?
I worked up there. It was about midway, the street there.
Is it on the Miller Drugstore
That's
side or on the other
It was
side?
across,
fine
on the
thing
other
right
side,
there.
across the street, about halfway up.
Right
Close to the
behind
Wings
us was
Theater?
Hancock's
Old
drugstore.
Martin Building.
The old Martin
Yeah.
building. Okay.
Fine thing.
Something I'd like to say about Mr. Martin.
Is it-
Lord gosh, that was a pitiful case.
All right, now let's have some more of these good pictures right over here and show what we have here.
This is at Love Field.
Why don't you hold that one up for us
Okay.
and
This
tell
is,
us about that.
Daddy and Mother
Hold it real still where
That's
the
Henry
camera can
Reed.
get
and
it.
Henry Reed at the old Love Field Airport. I believe this is about 1929, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
And that's a biplane, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That is very exciting.
I remember the first
Okay.
airlines came in there.
How about some of these other wonderful photographs that we have here?
And this is Mother. I believe Mother was 18 in this.
Oh, wasn't
That
she
good?
a beauty queen? Oh, just beautiful. And I remember when I was a little kid wandering around town, I always thought she was one of the most beautiful women that there was downtown when we would go into her store. Okay. And who is this next one?
And this is Daddy, age 21.
Oh, wasn't he handsome also? Isn't that good? Okay, how about some of this other real
Well, I don't know
old?
about
Let me see.
this.
Now, this is one that was my grandmother, Daddy's mother, and his dad. This was made out of table rock. This was a big old
That's
rock
on Rock Creek.
on Rock
he was
Creek.
on Rock
And
Creek.
this
Let's
is in
get one of
February 1906.
And that's where Roy was
of
born.
them
That's
and
before I
a-
was born.
Yeah. This was a Sunday.
Oh, that's
They
Table
were all
Rock,
having a picnic
out at
on
Rock
Table
Creek.
Rock.
Yeah.
Okay, and this next one.
All right, now this is Daddy's mother, Ellen.
All
when
right.
she was about 18 months or 2 years old, right here. This
Was
is
that
her-
in Texas or
no,
in Tennessee?
this is way back in North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Oh, in North Carolina, that's right. Your daddy was from
I believe this
Tennessee.
was made in Christmas Day, 1889.
Isn't that
They
great?
look like an old pioneer
Well, she was born
family,
in
don't they?
It really does. Okay.
This is Daddy and his first bicycle.
Oh, let's show that one. That's Roy Reed with his first bicycle, and it looks like he was about 10,
About 10 or 12 in
10 or
this.
12 years
No,
old.
I wasn't, I was about 10.
You was about 10.
9 or 10. The reason I said, we moved up to the other place from there, to the old Reed place when I was about 10 years old.
All
And
right.
that was on the old place down at the creek.
All right.
And this is one of Daddy, made in 1910, so he was 3 years old. in
3
this.
years old. Roy Reed at 3 years old. Isn't that splendid? Okay, and this very last photograph that we
And
have.
this is my grandparents, Daddy's mother and Daddy. This is Joe and Ellen Reed.
Those are the Reeds that had the dairy and 600 chickens and Roy Reed out in the Watson community, right?
That's right.
Okay, well, thank you for
They
the
used to call it
memorabilia.
actually West Fork Community up until I was nearly grown, and then they changed it to the Watson Community. But
Because it's still known the West Fork Presbyterian Church,
well,
isn't it?
that's what it used to be.
All right, now you have some notes here that we
Well-
want you to tell us some good stuff. Tell us some good things, would you?
I don't know if there's any good things in it.
You've seen a lot come down the pike with Grand Prairie, Texas.
Yeah, I'll just
and-
tell you a few.
Yeah, tell us a few tales, will you?
Well, the Reed boys out on the Reed place, his brothers, he had 4 brothers, didn't he?
It's
And
Uncle Sam.
in other words, when they got the crop put by every year, this is kind of pertaining to your locality, they'd go out to the polo range and work. Take the wagon, food, and camp out and work on the polo range. And they worked those polo farms, and they had 4 or 5 fields out there. And those horses they shipped in from India, England, all the English possessions. A lot of them shipped them to Grand Prairie, and then they'd take them out to the polo ranch and train them to be polo ponies. And some of the big shots, Dad said they played polo all day long with them horses, trained them.
Wonderful.
And some of the big shots, the polo players came from England and one from India, and they decided they wanted to play them. And Dad said they beat the socks off him, professional.
Good. Wonderful.
Yeah, that was out at Florence Hill, the polo
Florence Hill.
rink, yeah.
Right. All right. What else you got to tell us?
Well, I could tell a whole lot, but there's no...
You tell us the nice thing.
Yeah, the nice thing. I told you about the Indian mound over there, I guess.
Yes, you told me that, but you weren't on television. Why don't
Well,
you tell us about that a little bit?
This is nothing much about it, but right up the river from Wagner Park there's a high mound in the river. And nobody knew about it except old man Charlie Robson. He was born and raised there years ago before there was a Dallas. And he told me and Howard Hale one day, there's a high mound there in the river. He told us about it, and he said he went over and dug in it one time and got some old Indian relics and stuff out and brought them home. His mama made him take them right back and told him he didn't, he'd see flying arrows that night. And he did. And he told us about that. Well, it was bygone. And Tolbert of Texas used to write articles on the history of Texas. And the Indian chief from Oklahoma wanted to know where a particular locality near Grand Prairie in the Trench River bottom at Mound was. I knew, and Howard Hale knew, but some reason I didn't do it. My wife tried to get me to notify him, but I didn't. I feel mean to this day about that. That was sorry in me not to notify him, but that's it.
Who knows? Maybe it's still there.
Yeah, that's right. And Dad, on the river, or just above that place, I'll never forget as long as I live, on the Ernest Shepley place, a fellow named Lewis lived on it, and we'd go down there and fish for carp. I was about 10 or 12 years old, and the river, when we got the crops by, but Dad liked to catch carp, and we'd go there, and when we'd drive up, he'd always take his .22 rifle with him, and Mr. Lewis, he's poor as everybody, didn't have none, he'd come get it and kill some squirrels. And sure enough, he said, come up here, I want to show you something. Said, about a week ago, a Mexican came in late one evening and wanted to know where the biggest pecan tree was in the vicinity of that bend in the river. And he told him what different signs would be on the tree. Of course, it growed over, but you could still see the signs. Told him before he got down there. And he took him to that big tree, and sure enough, all those signs on it. It was getting dark, and he said, well, we'll come back tomorrow. Said, I got a treasure map here from Mexico about being buried there. And well, he didn't show up next day, and he didn't think nothing about it. That was a bygone. And about 2 or 3 days later, he was down there, and he seen where they dug beside that tree, dug down about, he took us up there and showed us. It happened just about a week before. Dug down, looked like 4 or 5 feet, and you could see very plainly where an orange chest was down there, and the old orange there, and you could see where it had been lifted out. What I mean, smooth. It wasn't dug out, it pulled out. And to this day, I wonder what in the world. Of course, that's no history, but
that was an exciting tale.
Yeah, it was an exciting thing. And
we have about 1 more minute. Is there one last tale you'd like to tell us?
I could tell you a dozen.
I know you could, but what we'd like for you to do is look out into your camera and tell us, right, and that's this one. We'd like for you to just tell us about living in Grand Prairie all these years, what it's meant to you.
Well, I've lived here, you might say, born out in the Watts community, but Grand Prairie was my town, and it's meant a lot to me. I like Grand Prairie. It's been good to me. And I seen Grand Prairie when I came here, 1,500. And now you know what it is. It sure has grown since they built that plant. And Mr. Harry Turner, he's the first one to start building houses. He didn't have a dime, but he ended up a millionaire, and he done it all honest. He was a worker for Grand Prairie. In other words, he was Mr. Grand Prairie.
He really was. And were you ever on a commission, or did you ever run for mayor or anything?
No, I never did. No.
You didn't do any of those things?
No.
Were you in any of the clubs?
No.
All right. Let's get back one more time to Maggie. Is there anything you would like to say about moving from Irving and living your lifetime in Grand Prairie, Texas? Maggie, look right out and tell us.
Well, I'm still close to home, but I still love Grand Prairie. But I've always been close enough where I could go home in just a few minutes anytime I wanted to.
Good. Well, wonderful. Shirley, it was wonderful having you to bring your parents to be on the show today and sharing this about 28 minutes of history with 2 people that have been very important to Grand Prairie, Texas.
Shirley has a wonderful family. I don't know what we do without them. All those kids are so good to us.
Wonderful. Would you like to throw a kiss to your grandkids or do anything special? Because we're going to be clicking out of here right now. And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.